Okay, hello everyone. It has been a minute since I have done an interview with a superstar director. So I am Sarah Ford. My team is warming up with the believers through Scentsy Fragrance Company, and I am here with the lovely Whitney Hebel, and she is a superstar director as well with Scentsy. And so today we're going to get into her story, how it started, how it's going, and kind of what that looks like for her and how it's changed her, pushed her, motivated her, and how she grew. So thank you, Whitney, so much for joining and for agreeing to do this interview.
Absolutely. Of course. Happy to be here.
So Whitney and I met about a year and a half ago in Idaho at Scentssy's home office. We had lunch out one day, met, and so I've been kind of following her and just her journey over the last year and a half, and how exciting that has been to get to know her and her love of Scentsy and her passion. Watched her move, her kids growing up a little bit more, watched her get a million animals, and so here we are. So anyways, so if you could tell us, Whitney, just kind of the beginning, like, where did Scentsy come into your life, and how did that happen, and what did that look like when you first started?
Yeah. So when I first started, I honestly, I'd used Scentsy before, but I wasn't actively using the products. I was literally looking for something that I could bring in a couple $100 more a month. And I had done 2 direct sales before Scentsy, and I knew a few things that I needed differently from those to be more successful. So I was actually thinking about joining Scentsy for over a year, just because I knew I'd used the products before. I knew they were wonderful. Honestly, we were at a point in our life where we couldn't really afford Scentsy because it wasn't a priority. And I was watching a girl I went to college with. She actually posted about a join special. So it was a $49 join special. And I thought all month, I'm like, should I do it? So was never asked to join by anyone. I had never even bought from my sponsor before, and she posted about it, and I messaged her and I was like, I think I want to do this. And she was like, okay, here you go. So started off, okay. It was literally, like I said, I'd done direct sales before, and I had a leadership role in the one before Scentsy, but one of the biggest things was that I wanted to sell a consumable product. And so that was one of the main focuses in Scentsy. And honestly, I did well that first month, and then it just kind of went from there. I went to my first world tour a few months later by myself. Actually, my sponsor was there. I hadn't seen her since college, but she was the only one I knew. And they announced the incentive to Mexico. And I was like, I want to earn that trip. I'd never been to Mexico at that point.
What year was that you joined?
So I joined 2017, September.
Okay.
And then I went to the world tour in February of 2018. So just a few months later, I was a certified consultant. And yeah, from that world tour, worked to earn that incentive as a star consultant. I earned it for one. And after that trip to Mexico, it was wonderful. Like the whole time I was just telling Eric, are we going to get a bill after this? Like, what is going on? Because I just couldn't believe that was real life, that we would just get all exclusives paid. Like, there's no catch. And the whole time I'm like, don't use that. We might get charged for that. Don't use that. We might get charged for that. Cause I was literally like, this is too good to be true. And then honestly, from there, I actually slowed down a lot. I put my kit down. I stopped working my business. I had a really good customer base, so I wasn't actively growing. But after that, I was a star consultant for, I think it was like 16 months straight. Just because I wasn't actively working. And then July 2019, we moved from Fort Stewart to Fort Drum. And that is when everything changed in my business. We were in a place where both boys were going to be in school full time. So we had always talked about I would, stay home with them, but when they were in school, I'd go back to work. And so we made a decision then, was I going to focus on Scentsy, or was I going to go back to and try and find a full-time job?
Mhm.
And we chose Scentsy. And since then, it's just been insane.
So my story is kind of the same. I just followed somebody that I went to college with,
Uh-huh.
and she posted about one bar, didn't even buy it from her, went to like a event somewhere,
Yes.
and I told her, like, if, oh, I really want to try this, but let me go to this event, see if somebody's there, I'll smell it, and I'll see if I like it, and which it was a scent of the month that hadn't even been released, so like the stars kind of align, because like you don't know if you go to an event, number one, if anybody's going to be there, number two, if they're going to have that specific scent that hasn't even been released. So I did, they had it and I loved it, and so then I just joined like a week later. So and I had a warmer, but I wasn't like actively buying it. So, but also I want you to know that I will put the income disclosure in the comments below, so you will definitely be covered. So when you decided that you were going to go from, not really growing and doing very little, what would you say were the things that you did that pushed you into the direction of then eventually within a few years just promoting to superstar director?
Definitely. And I mentioned this at World Tour. I watched Jennifer Anderson's video about how to make a 10K check.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a huge change. I knew, so 2K PRV, 2 new teamies a month, for 6 months, showing up for your team and training them. But my current problem was I had a great customer base that I just left in Georgia. So that was my main focus, that I needed to grow that customer base, because I needed to grow. I needed to get into the outskirts of my customer base and get to know people that I didn't already know. And so I really, really focused hard on my current customer base by providing, the customer service and all that. But also I literally asked every single one of my customers, hey, I'm trying to expand my business and I need to get some parties on the books. And I literally had party after party after party after party. And that is how it really boomed, because I focused on what I already had for customers and was just like, let's get you some free stuff. And I was so focused on building that relationship with these new customers that I'd never met in person. So that was definitely the main focus when I first started, because I was like, I have to grow. I'm not going to get 2K PRV from my current customer base. It's just not going to happen. They would keep me between like 500 and 1,000. So they were good and strong.
Mm-hmm.
But then also with moving, I was like, I know I'm going to lose some customers because they just prefer free shipping. But that was another key thing, is that I really held on to a majority of my customers from Georgia too.
Well, and if they're doing parties, they can work. I mean, it's a little bit different now than it was then, but there's still ways to make it work so that they can still get that free shipping without having to go online and place a $200 order. I mean, so, which some people do because they buy all their stuff, or they buy a lot of stuff. And so, that's really beneficial. So parties significantly changed things for you. And then where did that switch go for you when you were having parties and then you started to grow? And so tell me a little bit about like where those new consultants came from.
Yeah, so July 2019 was like I said, the month that we moved to Fort Drum, but that was also the month that SFR in Austin happened. So, and I was already signed up for that, because that was one thing I was like, I love to travel. I'd never been to Texas at that point. And I had told Eric before we moved, I was like, I want to go to this. I want to go see what this is about. So we had already planned, same month we were moving, I would still go to SFR. We'd make it happen. So I went as a star, and I literally left the event as a superstar consultant. It was my first ever 2K PRV month, so all in the same month. And it was all because of that choice and really putting in the intentional work of training myself and figuring out what I needed to do. But from those parties and from that high PRV, I was able to connect with people. So anyone who would order from me, I would add them, I would message them, I would get to know them.
Did you have a VIP group on Facebook?
Yes, I have a VIP group on Facebook, so I would add them to that. But it was more about the one-on-one conversation with all these different people to be like, hey, you know what, this is, thanks for your order, but would you like to, like, it was just party after party after party, and it was all online. And then the other part of that is a few months later, COVID hit. And that was, you know, a blessing to our business, but it was really just having those intentional conversations to build relationships with people and get to know them. And literally more than half of my frontline are people that I've met from parties. They're not people that I knew growing up or anything like that. It's from knowing that they love the product and helping them get it at a discount, and then saying like, you could get paid off this. I earned annual mentor that year, and it was literally from host exclusive kits. They were all host exclusive kits.
So host exclusive, just a little education. Host exclusive is if you decide that you want to host a party and then you want to join, you can join for a discounted rate. Instead of the $99, you're going to get a little bit more of a smaller kit, but it's going to be everything that you really need. Plus you're still going to get 3 months free of your business, your website. You're going to get all, like, the testers that you need, some catalogs, a warmer, things that you need for a little bit smaller, but also you can use your host credit to earn that. And then you don't have to pay for your kit, or you only have to pay, like, so a host base is $20. So you could get your kit for essentially $39, which we know that's less than filling up your gas tank now. So to start a whole business, a whole thing. So, okay. So there was something that I wanted to ask. Did you have another thing you wanted to say?
No, it was just really like being intentional with the host too, and making sure that every single host was asked about getting paid off their party. And the host exclusive kit at that point, like you said, it's a smaller kit, but at that point in our business too, with COVID going on, we weren't using like tangible hard products to run our business. We were literally using our phones. So that was the other part of it. Like, I know that, you know, I'm all about the testers and getting those out and using your kit and all that, but it's really just using that opportunity that was given to us. So
yeah, sure. So one of the things that you mentioned was that the people that joined under you were people that you met through parties. And I think that that's thinking about, like, when you said that, I was thinking, okay, who are my frontline and where did I meet them? And I'm like, I don't think I knew 10% of those people before I started Scentsy. So one of the things that I think is nobody probably expects when they join Scentsy is to find people. And so could you talk a little bit about your experience, not just with like growing your team, but also growing your tribe, if you want to call it
that? So I would suggest that everybody who's a leader go through and write it down. Like, where did I meet this person? How did that happen? She's a superstar consultant now. She was a reinstate, and I just met her at SFR last year for the first time in person, but like, we're best friends, you know? And so that's the power of this business. Is when I started, since, you know, I attended that first world tour, I was like, sponsoring is for the lucky people. Sponsoring is for the people who look a certain way, or, you know, because it was these people that I saw at that point, they were the minority as far as what I felt like I could do. Sponsoring was not something that I realized at that time that it is it is a lifestyle. It's a skill that you can learn and do. And that's not something I knew. I just thought it was people who had teams were lucky. People who had teams had all these people wanting to do this with them because they were a certain type of person. And that's literally the opposite of what sponsoring is. And I think that came through educating myself and training myself on how to actually do the thing, how to actually sponsor, how to talk to people, when to look for that, those keywords and stuff like that. But I think that was one of the turning points in my business too, when I realized this is something that I can learn to do. It's not something that is just a gift that's given to someone. And sponsoring really is a numbers game. How many people are you asking? That's what I always ask my teammates when they say, I'm not sponsoring. Okay, well, how many sponsoring conversations have you had this month? Because if you're asking 3 people a month, yeah, you're not going to sponsor. But if you're doing 1 a day, we do 1 a day, 7 a week, or 30 a month, whatever, however you want to look at it, the odds are going to be more in your favor, right? If you're asking more people and planting those
statistic is like 1 in 10, like
yeah,
for every 10 you ask.
Right. So the more people you ask, the more no's you're going to get, but the more seeds that you're planting that you can then follow up with later. So, as far as, community is very important to me just as a person. And I knew, especially when COVID happened, that our community was so important, because there were so many people who weren't having those outlets of communication with people or socializing. And one thing that I knew from the beginning being leaders that I always wanted to show up. My team knows that regardless of how they feel or what they're doing in their business or even what's going on in my life, that I will always be here. I will always show up. I will always be on the team page. I will always be here to help people. We stick to business hours and we have those boundaries too. But as far as the business, they know that I'm that steady person that's I'm not going to be in and out. I'm not going to, showing up consistently for your team is so important. And that's something that I feel like a lot of leaders lack, because it's hard to be consistent in something just in general, right? But to do it, to be consistent in something that you don't have maybe that accountability of clocking in or out, or someone telling you have to be here for these days, is even harder. So I think that a big part of our tribe and our community is showing up for each other and leading from the front and doing the things that we're asking our team to do. So
yeah, I think that that's really important. I mean, that's something that I've always really struggled with, is that consistency. And it's not been until probably the last year. I mean, I think everyone, through the pandemic felt this lack of community and this sense of being overwhelmed all the time and not knowing exactly what. Sorry, my accountant's calling me. Oh shoot. I knew when my husband told me yesterday that they were going to call me today.
it was going to be during this.
Yeah. Sorry, let me text him real quick.
You're okay.
I knew it, and I didn't say anything to him because I didn't even want to, I knew it. Anyways, so okay, I'll call them back. We have our appointment today. It's for taxes. So that's so I forget where we were. So anyway, so for the last year, just trying to take care of myself and living not in fear, but in I want to say abundance. I don't know if that's the right word, but like just living in grace, I guess, maybe, and in gratitude versus fear of the unknown and what's to come, and a lot more prayer, a lot more reading the Bible, a lot more Jesus. I think it's been a lot better and a lot easier to really connect and be, and I think connection has been good because for the last year it's been a lot easier. People don't feel as scared, and so being able to connect and be back out and be with people. I'm an extrovert, so being by myself is really hard for me.
Yeah.
Like it is not something that I prefer. And so yeah, so that's different. So I know that you have as far as like people who aren't maybe necessarily connected to you and your team, you have
Mhm.
those friendships. What has that done for you in your life? Like I think about like my best friends and the people that I talk to every day, and those are not people that I knew. They're not
Right.
people that are under me. They're not people that are above me. They're just people within the Scentsy community who have added so much value to my life.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience with that? And have you found that to be true for you, especially like moving a lot? You know, it's
Yeah.
hard to kind of maintain.
Yeah. So I'll say like when I first started, I didn't really have a Scentsy tribe. Like again, it was just something that was a hobby. It wasn't forefront in my mind. It just was something extra that I was doing. And through my business, I've had quite a few accountability partners. Like there needs to be more talk about that because I've outgrown people have outgrown me as far as like where we are in our business and how we can keep each other accountable and just things that have happened in mine or their life. And so I think accountability partners in general are super important, especially if you're a leader, because leadership is super hard. So having someone to bounce those ideas off of, my husband, he is on my account. Like this is part of his retirement plan. He's
I
definitely,
see him like in the like behind you in our
yep,
in videos, and I'm like, look at him
yeah.
creeping in.
Yep, he tries to come to as many meetings as he can. So he's been obviously the constant, and he's always in everything in life, he's the calm to the crazy over here. But there's been people where our leaders have, tagged us up with people and we've just bounced ideas off of and kept each other accountable and then that kind of fizzled out. Like I remember my first world tour, they set us up with accountability partners. Like that was one of their main focuses. And then there's relationships in our business that just aren't meant to be a relationship. And I think it's super important that you stand by your beliefs and how you're being treated as a person. But the group of SSDs that I get to work with daily are truly a blessing. I don't know where I would be without them. None of them are in my upline, but Anya Faust, she's my frontline SSD. She's in there too, and she's my best friend. So she's someone that I met in Georgia.
Mhm.
She joined right before I left, and her story is really crazy too, as far as why we joined is not why we're here. Like it has evolved so much, and I think that sharing those stories are so important because people are like, oh, well, I'm not successful now, so I'm never going to be successful. And that's not what Scentsy is. Like it's literally could be this change of a day, the switch of a light, But yeah, so we barely knew each other and we got to know each other through Scentsy, and now she's my best friend. We talk every day. And then we have the community of SSDs that we all fall under a certain umbrella. So we have been through some of the same instances, but some of these ladies are people that I watched while I was working towards SSD, towards my goals. So it's just very surreal too, where it's, these people are the people that I talk to daily, but you got to have someone that's going to call you on your stuff too, to be like, this is not what we're doing today. This is not the conversations we're having, and I think energy is really important as far as what you're spending your energy on, what you're allowing in your energy. And it didn't come from like this group of ladies that are who I work with every day. That this didn't come overnight, right? So it's, like I said, I've outgrown our accountability partners. They've outgrown me. Like this is a whole part of our journey too. So yeah, I think who you keep around you is super important. Who you listen to in this business is super important. And I'm all about keeping it real and having conversations. I'm an Enneagram 8, so I'm very black and white. I don't like the gray, like I don't like small talk, that kind of stuff. But not everyone's like that, right? So working with people who, like Anya, she's literally she's the opposite of me. She's like out here willy-nilly doing her hippie stuff, and I'm just like, no, this is what we're doing, so we keep each other balanced for sure. I just think it's okay to say to people, this isn't serving me anymore. This isn't worthy of my energy, and to move on from people, but then to also really appreciate the people that give you that energy back and that fuel you to keep going.
Yeah, and it's okay for some people to not be right with you all the time.
Right.
I've experienced, lots of the same things, and I've experienced lots of relationships that then come back because things have changed for them,
Yep.
for me, perspective, where we are in our lives, and I think that that's okay. I think that that's okay too. And also, like sometimes having people, like for me, I'm an Enneagram 6, which means I'm a super loyal person. And so like if I feel like you're not being loyal to me, it's going to be really hard for me, but I don't just walk away from relationships at all. Like that is not something I do. And so when someone's walked away from me before, finding that spot, being like, it's okay. Like you don't have to everybody's not going to be like right beside you in your corner all the time. Right. And that's just different people, different personalities. And I think that that's really great. So I want to shift a little bit, if that's okay. Relationships to daily life. To what does that look like? So for me, I have one child who's 5 and only does 15 hours of school a week. And so my time looks very different, I'm sure, than maybe yours does, because your boys are in school full time every day. So what does it look like for you every day when you're working your business? And that's something I think that a lot of consultants who maybe want to be a director and above want to know, like, what does that look like if you're working your business every day, or at least a full day, or give us time.
So again, it's a lot different now than it used to be. I worked my business through obviously COVID with the boys home doing their school and all that, and that was definitely a total different part of life. But I'm living the dream over here. There's I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I do work about 20 hours a week as an SSD. I think there is a lot of fluff that can be taken on with directors and above, where they think they're working, but they're not actually, they're working.
So fluff would be like making samples,
Yeah,
making things look cute and pretty, doing all the graphics, like basically like recreating the wheel sometimes, things like that.
And some of that stuff is fun and okay to do, but you have to be you have to prioritize your time, and that's super important to me, where I come in and I don't always have to sit at my desk to work. Like usually I'll sit on the couch and work from my phone, but I work about probably 20 hours a week. I don't work on Fridays, and I have a daily and a monthly checklist that I follow, and those are income producing activities. And that's the thing with this business, is we have overcomplicated it so much that people are so busy doing the fluff. They're so busy making their, and this may sting a little, but catalog covers, or, their little anime pictures, or switching out their office decor, or taking pictures. And all of that is not income producing. If you want a successful business, it needs to be PRV, sponsoring and training and coaching your team. Those are the main 3 things that we focus on in our group. And we start with PRV, and we start with partying. We start with ideas on how to get that PRV. And I just think that it's so easy, again, to get focused on the wrong things in this business, because that fluff is probably funner than having party conversations or scheduling out party post, or
it's not comfortable,
right. And so that's
it's fun, but not where you
Right.
go.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, there's hobbyists in this business, right? And everybody needs hobbyists on their team. Everyone has a place here in Scentsy. And that's the other thing is, as a leader too, you have to have that, those conversations with your people to say, what is your why? What are you doing? And me as a leader, I'm going to spend different time with someone who's like, no, I need to get out of debt. I need to be making 2K a month, whatever it is, compared to someone who's just like, no, I'm just here to get my discount. Right. And so as a leader, I have to prioritize my time to the person who's doing the income producing things and working their business. And that's hard for people to be like, you're not here for the same reasons, but that's leadership. And, spending the same time on those two people is not a smart business move. And I think that it's important too, when we're talking about our business, that we put our business hats on or we put our friend hat on. And that's the other thing too, is a lot of my frontline are my friends. And I say to them, like, are we talking business or are we talking as friends? I don't even know where that all came from, but what a day looks like. So yeah, I track my numbers every day in the morning just to compare month to month. And
so
then
tracking, I mean, do you use like your own special tracker? Do you have like the Scentsy
tracker? Yep. Just the daily tracking log that's on the workstation. You can see I don't always get every single day, but to be able to see a gist of the month is super important to me.
So if you have the planner.
Yep.
Which I obviously am really great about it. I used to be, I need to get back to it.
But again, that's not
right here. I'll set that right here. When we get done, I'll go do it.
That's not income producing. So if you're not doing something like that, that's fine. But having your PRV goals, how you're going to get that PRV, those sponsoring conversations, we follow the ATF system, which is ask, track, follow up. Like I said, how many people you're asking is important. But yeah, it's just, I'm a checklist person. So everything has a list and everything has a place for a check beside it. And then I also use my notes section where today or by the day, it's going to be different. So that's like kind of like the catch-all. So today's Tuesday, so that's a team day. So it's Tip Tuesday. Every single Tuesday, I give my team a tip. I try to go live or share a video from the past and give them some type of tip in their business that they should be doing right now, right? So this month I've done like the discontinued report that they should be running and reaching out to their customers. Last chance, first glance, showing up for them every single Tuesday. And then having those conversations with them and running reports. Since it's the end of the month, it's going to look different every day. And so I think I got to the point in my business though, where I was like, what am I doing? What is today? What, where it was like, I have so much to do. I don't know what to do. And that is where I literally just wrote down everything that I did, big and small, in my business for a week. And then I picked out what was the income producing things and put it on a checklist and broke it down by the week. So like I said, I have daily and monthly things to stay on track, but I also know that I'm not doing Scentsy to work 8 hours a day. I'm doing Scentsy so I can go work out after the kids go, we take the kids to the bus and I can just hang out and, I volunteer and I'm involved in a lot of other things in our county. But that's what
I used to think I just wanted to be home to watch The Price is Right.
I love The Price is Right. And that's a good, like,
I don't watch it, but I mean, that's what I used to think I wanted,
Well, and if you want to say every Wednesday, I'm going to watch Price is Right, that's why I'm doing Scentsy, then do it. Like, that flexibility and that availability is huge in our business.
Yeah. I mean, it's, for me, like I go to Bible study on Wednesday mornings and what without talking about the last 3 years, because that's just whatever, but like getting back into that and feeling like so blessed, like because I've thought before, like I really need those I mean it's only 2 hours, it's like less than 2 hours, but I really need that time to like work and get things done because Brantley's not home. But then it's like, no, that's not the purpose. You
Right.
can still work when Brantley's home, but you need to connect with other people, other women. And I have just, we're like 4 or 5 weeks into this study, and I've just connected so much with some of these women in my group, and how much of a blessing, that's been. And you can do that. Like, you can go to Bible study when you get off of work. It's not about like, you can't do these things if you have a quote unquote 9 to 5
Right.
full-time job. But for me, being able to do those things during the day, coming, not having to worry about leaving or messing up a weekly schedule or whatever,
Yep.
that works best for me and what my life is. And I really love that. And so I think I think it's really important for people to see, like, just because you're a superstar consultant doesn't mean, or superstar consultant, superstar director, doesn't mean that you are working all the time.
No, that's not the point.
And
Yeah.
yeah, right. And so I love that. And so how has the last couple of years changed since you've started doing Scentsy as like your thing? How has that changed the dynamics within your life and your family, and the things that you're able to do or not do or whatever? Does that look for you?
It's unexplainable. I mean, there's just, so Scentsy has provided. Okay, so my husband's in the military for 18 years, and he has a career in the military, which has blessed him so much. But now, since he's bringing in more money than an 18-year career is, so that's a huge change in our family for sure. It's the freedom. It's the freedom for us. It's not so much about the money, but money does allow freedom. So we're allowed to go to Disney. I think how many times have we been? I don't even know, 2 or 3 times. I never went to Disney as a child, and being able to provide, we love to travel. We love to go to the beach. We love to stay busy, and having that freedom to go and do those things without having to worry about the paycheck. Like, I don't have to check a bank account before we go do things. I know, that we are good. We're comfortable. It has allowed us to purchase this home, which we never would have been able to do without Scentsy. We just moved here in July to Tennessee, and the freedom of just being able to house hunt without money wasn't an issue. Like, we knew what we wanted, and we knew that what we wanted wasn't within what we could afford. And it was just, it's the freedom. It has changed our dynamic, because going from a stay-at-home mom who wanted something just to be able to contribute or to call her own, to then being the breadwinner of the home, that's a big shift in mine and my husband's relationship. And of course, he takes it like a champion. He's like, yes, do all the things. I love it. You're amazing. But not everyone's going to be like that, right? And it's something that we've had to talk about, where it's like, okay, I mean, he makes good money too. He's very successful, but just to have that, okay, well, what are we going to do? Like, what are our goals? Where do we have to be financially smart? We just became an LLC this year. So putting that business cap on, where we're actually thinking like a business. And this is not just an extra $300 a month. This is a 6-figure business that is blessing our family. And it's just a whole different mindset of life. And now we're talking about investment properties. And that's something that, that was never even on a goal sheet, and since he has allowed us to do these things. And I think that a lot of people say, oh, well, she's an SSG. She doesn't have another job. She has it so easy. We went without, and we had so many, I don't know how to say it. We went without before so much, and it just didn't happen overnight. It came from hard work. It came from late nights. It came from a lot of crying, a lot of hard times. It's not just lucky. And it's it's hard work and really being focused in what's important in your business.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I mean, I thought about that last night. Like I used to be in my office or working
mhm,
at 9 o'clock, nine
yeah,
o'clock till like 11 o'clock at night, because that was when I could do it. I mean, I worked full time for a long time, um and it was, now I don't feel like I need to do that
right.
anymore. And
Well, and
I
that's when you
could,
say, like, what does a typical day look like now? A typical day now isn't what it was to get here. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So,
you got to put in the grit, and not that you don't have to grind now,
right,
but that it's a different vibe. I think
it
it
is.
just
It
feels
is.
different. And even though you still have to work, you've been able to put yourself in a position
Yeah.
to where you can kind of do it the way you want to do it.
Yeah, and I feel like I've gotten better at working too, like through the time where I'm like, as a leader, working a couple hours a day and actually doing the things that are important instead of working for 8 hours and spending half of it on things that, weren't important. So I think that's a part of the journey too, is you're doing when you become a director, when you become a top 3% of our company, you feel like you're like, what do I do now? What do I do with my hands? Like what's it's such a big change, but it's like, no, you keep doing what you were doing to get there,
Mhm.
right? Because that team that got you to director is not going to be the one that keeps you at director, and it's not going to be the one that takes you to SD. But we really have to work smarter and not harder, because it's the simple things that make the difference, not the hard things.
Yeah, for sure. So if you were going to, I mean, you kind of just did, but if you were going to say or give advice to somebody who wants to be a superstar director,
Mhm.
what would you say to them? Like, what would be like a piece of advice that you would give to them?
I think the first thing is belief that you can do it. You know, every SSD in this company will probably tell you that was not their intention when they started, or even maybe a goal when they started, because it didn't seem attainable, but it is. So having that belief in yourself and knowing that literally anyone who wants to put the work in can get there. Um, but yeah, honestly, it's the 2K PRV, 2 new teamies a month, consistently showing up for your team and group. That is sounds so simple, but I mean, it's going to be hard if you're not
Work.
getting close to 2K PRV a month right now. There's ways to get up to that, but having that consistently, that's going to provide you the customer base to have those conversations, to then have those join conversations. And then again, acting and showing up as leader. It sounds so simple, but there's so many people that it's hard for them to do that consistently. So doing those 3 things consistently, do it for 6 months straight, you'll see a huge change in your business for sure.
I love that so much. Is there anything else that you want to share?
Ah, go to events. Those are
Mhm.
huge game changers for consultants. Make it a priority to go, even if you don't maybe feel like it, or maybe you're going to have to, do an extra party to set aside that money that you're earning to go to the events, because it will change. It will change your business, because you're going to be around so many like-minded people.
Don't get caught up in like, I have to stay in the nicest hotel right
No.
next to the place. Go with 3 or 4 people,
Yep.
get a room, sleep on the floor, do what you got to do. My very first one was in St. Louis. I roomed with like 4 people. I didn't know them at
Yep.
all.
Same.
Not never met them. And we shared a room and we were pretty far off, but thank God this was like before Uber was like Uber. And thank God there was like a hotel shuttle that like would take you back and forth to the convention center, which is like not a thing, I don't think.
No.
Ever. And so we were able to kind of go back and forth, but do it. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, do the thing. It
Go to
is
the events.
so important. Well, thank you so much. This was incredible. I cannot wait to share with my group and my team. I just started team email, so I'm going to send it in my email next week, once I get it uploaded to YouTube. But you are amazing and you shine bright. And I know I had lots of people who were at Raleigh, and I know that your story and that you're sharing impacted them. And so just know that you're doing great work. And I really appreciate it.
Ditto. I think you're amazing too. And I think this is amazing that you do this. And is, since he's so much more than the paycheck, it's about the community, it's about relating to people. And so things like this, I think are super important.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, don't hop off. I'm going to stop the recording.